What's going on, y'all? My name is Tommy, once again hiding my face. I don't know what I ate, but I shouldn't have eaten it, I'll say that. Woke up under the weather this morning, so I'm far from pretty. But today, on Min-Maxing for Fun and Profit, the other half of our request for a dancy Marshall, focusing around moving all over the place, big reach, doing the things that 1E can do real well. Remember, if you're liking what you're seeing, to like, subscribe, and ding the bell. And Patreon gets you a Google Sheet that this build is put together on, and a bunch of other cool stuff if you're so inclined. But for now, let's dive in. The goal of this build, essentially, is to optimize around the other half of that request. Teleporting across the battlefield or close, having a big threat range, hurting people for moving through your threat range, while still, in general, having monk vibes. First edition does this better. No monk here, no elven curve blade here, no elf here. The goal instead is to build around my favorite weapon, one of my favorite classes, and a class I've never got a chance to play but really want to. Once again, we are pointing ourselves towards the Sarissa. It triples your reach rather than doubling it, a 15-foot cone. It's pointed upward if you're ambushed. Sometimes that's better though. Remember, we're standing at the tippy top of the pyramid, and that cone's much bigger if you get it up. That's what she said, as opposed to it just being in a flat space. Ironically, because the class does not super support it, it's very handy in the hands of a warrior poet samurai. The warrior poet wants to be dex based. It gives you a lot of value for doing so. Not us today. We're initially tagging up here for one flourish. We'll come back to it later. I've been playing this on a merfolk in Giant Slayer. They have been a wonderful ride. The flourish Petals on the Wind. Whenever a foe provokes an attack of opportunity from us, we can move 5 feet before making the add up. This movement does not provoke. If the warrior poet takes an action to move during your next turn, you subtract 5 feet from your movement next turn. However, in that 15-foot cone, which mind you is huge, when they move from 15 to 10 and it provokes and you shift, they haven't even got to you, and you're stabbing them and also increasing the distance they must travel. Depending on your battlefields, again, I've been playing this in Giant Slayer, so it's just Orc City. You can 5-foot step such that the charge lane is broken, and they've wasted their action. Or if you use your measuring tool efficiently, 5-foot step such that you are no longer within the span of a move action, and they must double move to reach you. Or even just preventing full attacks, setting up flanks, so on and so forth. It's real cool. We're going to stack this up with the ward speaker as well, mostly for the increase to speed. The reroll is also very nice, and eventually burning that enhancement bonus to speed doesn't really hurt. It's just sort of icing on the cake. In addition to 10 levels of that, we'll be taking 10 levels of the Slayer archetype, Anko's Shadow. It replaces Studied Target with Shadow Double, taking a full round action to make a Shadow duplicate that starts out functioning as Mirror Image, eventually becomes Unseen Servant by 10th level, a third Shadow Double, and you can divide your actions between that body and your Shadow Double as the origin point for attacks or abilities, making that 15-foot cone, which eventually becomes a 30-foot cone at permanent enlarged person, originate from 4 different places and 4 different steps. These things can also provide flanking. You're like a summoner without as many options, but with a lot of sharp, pointy objects. It's real cool. Order of the Flame for the Sam side, because Glorious Challenge is dumb as hell. As an immediate action, after reducing the target of your challenge to 0 HP or fewer, choose an opponent within 15 feet of eventually 4 shadows, which is a lot of places. You take a further -2 penalty to your AC, but gain a morale bonus on damage against that target equal to 2 times the number of consecutive glorious challenges you've made, and you can just keep looping that, stacking to the moon and back. I also really love Foolhardy Rush. If you roll an 11 or better on the die during initiative, you can move up to your base speed as an immediate action. You're not flat-footed, you can set up the Sarissa. We'll take the first level of Samurai for Petals on the Wind, then 10 Slayer levels, then Samurai from 12 to 20. For our race today, bounced around on this a lot. I landed on the Tiefling. We'll be playing the Demonborn and choosing the Maw or Claw variant. Couple reasons for this. First, having a natural attack means you are not as vulnerable with the Sarissa as you don't threaten adjacent. Second, since our will save never gets that great, playing a native outsider means we can dodge the charm persons, hold persons, so on and so forth that exists. Take reactionary and heirloom weapon, whether or not you're getting the pre-errata +1 on attack of opportunities, pretty darn cool. For our ability score priorities, strength and charisma at the top. This is one of those times where we want to be strength based, could not figure out a great way to finesse a Sarissa, so here we are. The warrior poet gets 1 point of charisma per level to AC if they're not wearing armor, so eventually pad out your dex. Dex and con and whiz you want kinda in the middle, into the floor. This is a very mad character, for sure. For our feats, combat reflexes out the gate, you kinda need it to function. The extra add-ops with additional dex might only on this build mean 1 or 2, maybe 3 at the beginning per round, but that's probably enough, and it gets better as you level. We love elephant in the room in this house, so dodge mobility next. That's why you don't see power attack also. Don't know what that is, follow this card right up here. At level 5, the big one, combat patrol. As a full round action, you increase your threatened area by 5 for every 5 of your BAB. We're full BAB, so that's super great. Until the beginning of your next turn, you may add op against any opponent in that threatened area. That provokes as such, you may move and thus reorient the Sarissa. We've had this conversation before, it's dope as hell. As long as you don't move more than your total speed. Then at level 7, we'll grab Chain Challenge. Whenever the target of your challenge is killed or knocked unconscious, you can use an immediate action to declare a new challenge within 30 feet of you, just making you a little faster when you're out of glorious challenges. Even better, this doesn't count against the normal amount of challenges you have. At this point, we only have the 1 challenge anyway, so stretching that out a little farther seems good to me. Next, Spear Dancer. Every time you hit a creature with a 2-handed reach weapon that you have weapon focus in, the creature is dazzled for a round. We get weapon focus from Slayer stuff, talk about that in a sec. At this point, we have everything we need to function, so why not a debuff? Accomplished Sneak Attacker gives us a little more sneak attack dice. We do flank from the Sarissas. No reason to not, right? What's better than a d6 applied to someone's dome? Extra d6s applied to someone's dome. Next up, we'll grab Furious Focus to buy off our power attack penalty from the first attack that we're Sarissa stabbing, then Greater Trip. It's awkward how Elephant in the Room interacts with this and the unbalancing trick Slayer talent will be taking, but we're also so good on feats at this point that it doesn't hurt us to have a slight amount of attacks. Next up is Deific Obedience, once again choosing the Arulent Eye himself, Tanagar. We have a piercing weapon, we like to do sneak attack damage, getting some extra dice, and a buff to damage per die. Looks good on everyone. Well, everyone who's doing piercing sneak attack damage, you understand. Then lastly, Improved Initiative, because if you made it this far, why not? For our Slayer talents, first up, Unbalancing Trick, because we can't take Blood Reader because we don't have Studied Target. We gain Improved Trip for free at level 6. We are treated as if we have the prereqs for Greater Trip. Then pulling in from the 2-handed weapon combat style, Pushing Assault. When you hit a creature of your size or smaller, will be perma-large at some point. With a 2-handed weapon attack modified by power attack, you can push the target 5 feet away from you. Now isn't that something? You've power attacked for the round, someone moves through your threat range, it provokes, but first you step back 5 feet and then hit them, push them back 5 feet. You've essentially 2-for-1 them. If you crit, you push them back 10, 3-for-1ing, even better. Then weapon training, choosing pole arms. Fun fact, the Sarissa appears to not be in a weapon group. One wonders if that's intentional. My Giant Hunter's Handbook's not handy right now. I'm just gonna assume this thing lands in pole arms. Maybe spears, who knows. Next, from Heroes of Galarian, praise Kazutal, Jaguar's Grace for a non-lethal thing that exists, hooray. Then Jaguar's Pounce. Whenever we deal sneak attack damage, we can disarm or trip as an immediate action as if the target were flat-footed, losing their dex to CMD. And since we have improved trip, hey, why not? Then they've fallen over. Then standing up provokes. Then if they try to do another thing, it might provoke. See where we're going with this? Stabby, stabby, stabby. We get 3 more Warrior Poet flourishes. We will be choosing Exodus of Jinin all 3 times on top of Petals of the Wind at first, for a total of +30. Untyped onto our land speed, which seems like a lot, but remember, we will be dividing this land speed by 4 amongst several shadow clones, so truly the more buffs we can get to that, the better. For our key magic items, in addition to the big 6, follow this card right up here if you don't know what that is. First up, the Keen Enchantment, because why not? We're swinging a lot, as many times as we will be attacking in a given round. It's entirely feasible that a 19 comes up. Much more importantly for us, the Fortuitous Enchantment. Once per round, when we hit with an attack of opportunity, we can make a second attack of opportunity at 5, which then means with Petals on the Wind, we can 5-foot step, keep them in the cone, stab, then 5-foot step a different way, stab again. Not only is this 2-for-1, and you're just dancing all over the place. Staying out of threat ranges, forcing things to waste turns, getting behind someone if you're wounded, getting in front of someone who is wounded. Need I go on? Bracers of armor will eventually be super key for us, assuming we can get our dex high and our chaw high. I imagine we can. At a +2 bonus, the leg breaker enchantment also looks really cool. It reduces the base land speed of a creature struck by 10 feet for 1d4 rounds. You can't make this go any farther down, but you can extend a duration. This can only be removed with a heal check. On a crit, you can get a free trip. It does everything we want to do. We now can theoretically hit them, push them back, debuff their speed, and move ourselves. Weird control vibes on a full Bab Marshal. Then, lastly, the Champion enchantment for a +2 staggered bonus to AC against the thing we challenged, buying off our penalty from Glorious Charging to bejesus him back. And yeah, so in the optimized party, God, one of these days I'll remake it. Follow this card though. This is Punisher City. Multiple threats on the board. Some monsters might not be able to even tell which is the real you and which is the fake you. A huge threat range, moving around to make people waste actions, while your kineticists, inquisitors, and wizards, oh my, mop up the big threats. I can say both that this build looks really fun, and I'm playing a glaive variant of it right now, so I can definitely confirm it's dope as hell. If you need someone to move very fast, feel like a monk but not be a monk, control the battlefield at the point of a spear, this is where you want to go. But that's all the time I have for today. Thank you guys so much for watching, as always. Next week's the bye week. We're reorganizing. I think the Inner Sea region, a 5-minute tour, is going to get the thumbnails next week, just to keep it nice and easy. Till then, y'all, we'll see you next time.